Zettel für den langen Weg. 2 Flaschen Whisky für die Zeit. Und ich date gern habe, du bist dabei. Mario geht fort mal weg, ist weit. Wann ich geh, ich werd dir fehlen, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht mehr, was ich mach, du sehst nicht mehr, wie ich lach. Ich werd dir fehlen, du watsch sehen. Hab kriegt mein Zettel für den langen Weg. Du schönste, als mir finden kann. Es hat Mario und Dale ganz wunderbar. Hass ich dir den weißen Dank. Wann ich geh, ich werd dir fehlen, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht mehr, was ich mach, du sehst nicht mehr, wie ich lach. Ich werd dir fehlen, du watsch sehen. Well, hello, liebe Leute. Doug Maidenford is back at you with another episode of PA Dutch Live. Can you believe that we are almost through the month of October? Donavera, the year is almost all the way around. Got a couple more months to go yet before we totally finish 2021 on. But we're getting pretty darn close, aren't we, Booba and mates? Tonight, we have a wonderful show. And we're going to get to the main speaker as fast as we can. But before that, let me do a little housekeeping, especially for people that are joining us for the first time. Thank you for joining us. We do this every month, and every month I try to come up with a new guest to talk about something Pennsylvania Dutch related. And tonight, boy, do we have a doozy. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, or if you're watching on the Facebook page, or if you're joining us via LinkedIn, again, welcome, or as we say in Pennsylvanisch Deutsch, welcome. Throw it in the chat box or in the message box and tell me where you are joining us from. I always like to know where people are, where they're tuning in from. Every month we got people from all over the place joining us, and I got some people already throwing comments at us. Dolly Moyer enjoying a beautiful fall day. It was a beautiful fall day, gal, in beautiful Berks County. Hey, look at this guy. Travis Roby says, thank you, Doug. I've been working daily in the Amish community, and you've made it fun for me to go to work and learn more every day. I've made it fun for you to go to work, Travis. Now that's saying something. There's not too many people that make me feel like I'm having fun going to work, but if I can provide that for you, that makes me feel pretty darn good. We got Rachel Visbeza from Fleetwood, the big metropolis of Fleetwood. Welcome, Rachel. Thanks for joining us. Keep those comments coming and let me know where you're watching and joining us from. I usually have people joining us from across the ocean. Hopefully we'll get some of our German watchers chiming in here soon as well. Every episode I like to start with giving you a little bit of information about things happening in the greater Pennsylvania Dutch world. Travis lets us know his Pennsylvania Dutch is getting good. Goede Obit. Good evening. Well, Goede Obit zu dir all. And we got Kai Dagen, hallo aus Bonn. There's our first viewer from across the ocean in beautiful Bonn, Germany. Thanks for joining us, Kai. You're in for a good evening. I'm glad you stayed up so late to join the fun. And we got Jerry Green. Hi, Doug. I'm originally from Boyertown, but now down there in South Carolina. That's okay. He's still sporting the Phillies logo. We didn't make the playoffs this year. I guess there's always next year. Jerry, you need to switch that logo now to the Flyers because this is our year, I think. We're going to bring the cup back to Philadelphia. At least that's what I think. Boys and girls, Jungs und Mädels, let me share some stuff with you. Tonight's episode, if you've been following along on any of my social media feeds, you know that it will be Brian Riegel will be joining us, and I'll bring him in here in a couple minutes to talk about the one, the only, the King Frost Parade. And if you don't know what that's about, well, you're going to learn all about it tonight. And we'll always finish the episode with I got a poem for you. Actually, this month we're not doing a poem. I got some idioms that I'm going to share with you guys in Pennsylvania Dutch, and I got a brand new song. You people will be the very first people in the world to hear this original song that I've been working on, and I can't wait to share that with all of you. But let's talk about some things going on in the greater Pennsylvania Dutch community. I shared this with you last month, but it's still going on, so I want to let everybody know, hey, if you grew up hearing Pennsylvania Dutch or you're just curious and want to learn something about the language and culture, you are invited to join us every third Thursday of the month, except for July and August, but they're already passed. So looking ahead, 7 p.m. at St. Peter's Lutheran Church in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It sounds like they got a Pennsylvania Dutch language group, learning group. So if you're in the greater Allentown area, give John a call down there at 484-239-2766 and join the fun that group is having over there in Allentown. Another opportunity for those of you in the greater Berks County area, the Berks History Center, which I got to give them a plug. If you live in Berks County and you've never actually gone to the Berks History Center, you are missing out on a good time. What a wonderful museum that displays the history of Berks County from the very beginning all the way up to present day. Please check out their displays and what they have there to see. And they also have a bunch of special events throughout the year. Here's one coming up that's very Pennsylvania Dutch themed. They're calling it Brunch and Brushes, where you can learn to paint a modern Pennsylvania Dutch Distelfink. That intrigues me a little bit. So if you would like more information, you can contact the Berks History Center. Just search for them online. They're also on all the social media platforms, and I'm telling you, they do some really, really great stuff. Also, looking way ahead into next year, 2022, but I saw this posted this week, and I wanted to let everybody know, mark your calendars. We are returning to an in-person event, the Pennsylvania German Sommerlauf, which has been taking place for many years now, but the last 2 years it had to go virtual because of COVID, of course. But the dates are set, and as of right now, they are planning their events for in-person, and hopefully by January and March, we will be out of all of this COVID stuff, and we can get back to full in-person stuff. But anyway, the first opportunity is Sunday, the 30th of January, 2022, their third annual Groundhog Day for Youth. So if you have kids or grandkids and you want to get them interested in Pennsylvania Dutch culture, particularly the traditions around Groundhog Day, this is an awesome event for you to go to on the 30th of January, and that will be at the Midway Diner in their banquet hall there in Bethel, Pennsylvania, in northern Berks County. And then the big festival is Saturday, March 19th. Please mark that on your calendar for the Pennsylvania German Sommerlauf. There'll be history presentations, language presentations, genealogy, live music, and a lot of fun and good Pennsylvania Dutch food as well. So mark those dates on your calendar. It's going to be a great 2 days, the 30th of January, and there's a snow date there on the 6th of February in case the weather don't want to cooperate. And we got the big Sommerlauf then on the 19th of March. So please think about joining and taking part in those great events. We got some other people I want to give some shout outs to that are joining us from north of the border. Cynthia is joining us from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Cynthia, it's so great to have you here. Let me quickly say that I've been to Halifax more than once, and it's one of my favorite cities. I just love it. Could you please send me a case of Alexander Keith's? I'd really appreciate that because I can't get that here in Pennsylvania. We also have Carol Miller joining us from Florida, but she's visiting her cabin in Flagstaff, Arizona. Bet it's a lot warmer there than it is here. David is joining us from sunny San Diego. Thanks for joining us, David. We got another German joining us. Norman Jung is joining us. He joins us every month from Steinbach am Glan. Thanks so much for joining us. It's good to see you again here. And a little bit closer to home, Yvonne Osman is joining us from big town of Easton, Pennsylvania. Yvonne, thanks so much for joining us as well. Well, without further ado, I think it's time to bring our guest on. And this month, earlier in the fall, I reached out to the Hamburg Area Historical Society because growing up in northern Berks County, one thing that was an absolute fixture on the Maidenford family calendar was the King Frost Parade. Now, if you're not from Berks County, then you probably have never heard of this before. Shame on you. But we'll fix that tonight because you're going to learn all about this parade that, even though this year is going to be the 57th annual, it's actually been going on way longer than 57 years. And I reached out to the Historical Society and asked, is there anybody out there that would be willing to come on and talk about the history of the parade and the festival? And I was lucky enough to get a guy, or this guy was either, he threw the dice and he said, I'll help you. And that gentleman is Brian Riegel. And I'm bringing Brian onto the live stream right now. Hello, Brian. Thank you for joining us and welcome to PA Dutch Live.
Thank you. Guten Tag, Doug.
Hey, he's got his Germany soccer jersey
That's
on.
Right.
Not messing around tonight.
No, not tonight.
So, Brian, before we get into your actual presentation, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what's your Pennsylvania Dutch background or connection?
So I have my family on my mother's side is Renchlers, and my grandmother, maternal grandmother, was a Sundog, a Sunday, and she came to her ancestors came on board the Snow Molly ship 1739, into Pennsylvania, into Philadelphia. So Pennsylvania German through and through. And I worked at the Pennsylvania Dutch Folk Culture Society for many years as a tour guide and as well. So it was lots of good experience.
Brian, did you grow up hearing the language by your grandparents?
It's funny you should mention that. My grandparents would speak the language when they didn't want us to know what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And when
all too often the answer.
when we would go to my great-grandparents' place, my great-grandfather and grandfather would speak pretty much Pennsylvania German the whole time, Pennsylvania Dutch the whole time. So, yeah.
So it is music to your ear as well, even though maybe you don't, you can't speak it back, but I'm sure you probably understand more than what you probably realize, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Brian, let's get into why I invited you on the show, and I'm going to kind of turn the program over to you. I know that you prepared a presentation on the King Frost Parade, so if you would like to share that with us here tonight.
No, not. Hold on.
No problem. Hey, we know technology sometimes. Brian and I did a dress rehearsal on Sunday, and everything went smoothly. And that usually means in the entertainment world, if the dress rehearsal goes smoothly, then the performance will probably have some kind of little hiccup. So maybe it's just our little hiccup right now. And that's okay. That's all right. It gives the people more time to settle in, get themselves another drink or a fresh drink so that they're ready for this presentation.
All right, let's see if we can get this going. No, it's still not showing it. Oh, Chrome tab. Sorry, never mind.
There we go.
All right. Technology and me are not friends always, so.
That's all right. That's all right.
Not that one. Let's try it again. Share screen. Share screen. Chrome tab. And, whoa, what's happening? Oh, sorry, Doug.
That's okay. That's okay.
There we go. All right.
Now we're
cooking. Now we're cooking with gas. All right. So the King Frost Parade, yes, as Doug said, in Northern Berks County, this was the place to be the last Saturday of the month of October. And so we've been called the Fall Mardi Gras, and we're going to talk to you tonight a little bit about the history of the King Frost Parade. So how did it all get started? And well, in September 29th of 1910, Jack Walker had this idea that to curb the shenanigans that were happening typically around Halloween time, he thought it would be a great idea to have a masquerade parade on the evening of Halloween the 31st. So and this was announced 4 weeks before the parade. And of course, this took off in a great deal. And people were so excited about the parade that there was concern that there would be more people in the parade than actually be able to watch the parade as spectators. So it was a great thing. And of course, they began raising funds for some prizes and stuff, and they were going to have this great parade. And of course, the local paper, the Hamburg Item, had them all stirred up and ready for the greatest thing the town had seen in many years. And of course, there was lots of talk going on. The buzz was great for this parade. And so in the Hamburg Item, it said the week after the parade, it was the greatest ever. And it fully exceeded their size and brilliancy according to what they had proposed. There were 20 judges at the parade there for that. Prizes included $5 and $2.50 gold pieces. But the prizes were even more, we'll say, exotic than that. For example, you could get a free shoeing for the finest horse that was judged to be the finest horse, 50 pounds of flour to the oldest man marching the entire parade route. And he was 68 years old, by the way, that marched the entire parade route. Whether or not he had to carry that home, I'm not sure. So there was also a plow that was given away, a feed truck, and 15 pounds of cattle powder. So this got the ball rolling in 1910. And 1911, and this really took off. It became known as the King Frost Carnival. This was the first time it was referred to as King Frost. And there would be 3 parades, as you can see on this advertisement from the Hamburg Item. They even ran a special train from Hamburg to Reading for this event. The three parades were the Agriculture and Industrial Parade. They had 54 floats and teams on display. An automobile parade was the second parade. It had 66 vehicles. Now, if you consider 1911 and the amount of vehicles that were, the automobiles that were there are available and in the area, that was a really good turnout for that. And those prizes for the automobile parade were 15 gallons of oil, of gasoline, 10 and 5 gallons of gasoline. So it might be worth your while to come to Hamburg for that. And the Evening Fantastic Parade, of course, was all of the masqueraders, and it was about 2 miles in length. And here is the week before, the Hamburg item the week before is talking about the special train coming to Hamburg. And in 1912 was a pretty big year for the King Frost Carnival. Now, this is the second annual one. This particular picture is of a program that was given to us. It was found in the bottom of a cardboard box at an auction in Schuylkill County and was given to us. It was mint condition. And just to point out that it was a full day of events, as you can see here, from 7 a.m. in the morning till 11:45 at night. There were events going on the whole time. In fact, the Ladies' Home Journal sent someone to take photos of the event, and the Lubin Motion Picture Company requested permission to make a film of it. And I haven't seen the film yet, so I have to do some more research on that. But Arthur Fink of Reading, he supervised and directed the Tournament of Roses Parade in Pasadena, California. He was directed to hire the events, to direct the events and of the carnival. And of course, as you can see, it lasted a whole day, starting at 7 a.m. Businesses were open from 8 to noon, and everything closed down at noontime. And remember, this would have been on holiday on October 31st, which probably wasn't on a Saturday. You see also they had a marathon and 175-yard dashes as well, concerts by bands. And interesting to point out to you is that this line here, if you can see the arrow, where large crowds of people gather, there will always be found pickpockets. Beware. Also, all gambling devices were strictly prohibited within the borough limits. So yeah, it was a pretty big deal. And what I've included here is a parade route, basically for the 1910s. And if you can follow the red line, it begins on North 2nd Street and goes west to North 4th, and then out North 4th down to Port Clinton Avenue over here to the left, down to 3rd Street, all the way down to Grand Street on the far end here. Oops, sorry, back again. And it would return down State Street, go back up, and all of this was so that they could go by the judges' stand 3 times. So that was that interesting. And so you may wonder, like, how did they do the lighting and stuff for this? Because they didn't have electric lights. And so they had used lanterns, torches, maybe like creches, like they have down at Williamsburg, I believe. And so they used those for illumination. This is one from the very early time on State Street. You can see the judges stand off to the right there, the little white building. And we get into the floats for the industrial agricultural parade. And Hamburg was at one time the broom capital of the U.S., perhaps made more brooms per capita than any other place. So the Windsor Broom Company, founded by Wilson Schmick in 1911, put out their finest. Of course, they couldn't help but use the witch on the top riding the broom as well. But brooms were a big deal in Hamburg for many, many years. And as you may see, you'll see here, this is the Knights of the Golden Eagle, and they were all decked out. It looks like various religious costumes, or rather costumes that within their fraternal order. And of course, the fraternal orders were big in the 1910s and very big in Hamburg as well. So it gives a really interesting look at their particular outfits for that part of the parade. And this is the judges' stand. You can see all the judges standing up there. I believe I counted about 15 or so on there, 12 to 15. It's built on a hill, so you can see the roof pitches, but the stand itself is still level. So some good carpenters, I guess, in Hamburg to make that. There's another another shot of State Street, heading west on that. And so it's just you can see there on the bottom left corner, there is a man with a plow. I'm not sure if he was plowing the road also, because it was dirt at that time. So he may well have been plowing the road. But it was a very big deal. You can see the amount of people on the lower right corner standing there watching the parade as well. So this has to be one of my favorite ones, because in a good Pennsylvania Dutch name, Dunkel. So who is Dunkel? Why, the butcher who sells choice meat and always has his hands on the, I'm not sure, always has his something on the whatever. But anyway, he's actually has meat hanging from his float. So maybe he was selling while he was driving as well, which is pretty neat one. This particular one was from 1913. It was in front of the Washington House or Washington Hotel at 4th and Pine Streets. And of course, the parade marshals are pretty big names in the borough of Hamburg. Dr. Peidiger, Solomon Hartman, Irvin Schlenker, and others, and some good Pennsylvania Dutch names there as well. And here we have the Hamburg Plow Works and their plows up on the float. And this one particular photo is from 1912. And I actually believe that they gave one of these plows away as part of the prizes for the parade.
I don't think there'd be too many people impressed with getting a plow as a prize today, would they? As they probably were in 1912.
Yeah, no, I agree. It probably wasn't what you were really seeking after. Maybe that $5 gold piece might have been the better, the better thing. But definitely, so it was definitely different times. Even considering getting a feed bag, a bag truck, a hand truck for a feed, so it was a different thing as well. And here we have from 1915 parade, again, just another example of a beautiful horse and pulling the wagon as part of the display for the carnival. And of course, as I mentioned, there was an automobile parade as well as the masquerade parade. So the Hamburg Broomworks, this was, of course, the Schmidt building. He's prepared with his car all decked out in flowers. I don't even know how the driver could see out the front window to go. And the other float with the two horses and stuff. Again, it was just a really big deal. It's a great picture, though, from early Hamburg. Unfortunately, the Broomworks building has been torn down in Hamburg, but it's a beautiful reminder of it. And a couple more pictures of floats. We have the Rabinold hardware. And I took notice that there are two guns on the top there. You see them in the upper right-hand corner, the two guns there, as well as axes and hatchets on the side of there. But also, I think at the top there, if I can get my arrow to point up without moving to the next picture, it's the look like a wringer washer, the part for a wringer washer. So I don't know if they were giving them away, but certainly interesting. And of course, the early parades had bands, and this was no different. Bear's Ice Cream and had sponsored looked like a hobo band. Very nice patriotic bunting as well. There was also in the early parades, there was the Pottsville Sauerkraut Band. There was the Liberty Band of Fairside of Schubert. The Shoemakersville Band, the Berkey's Band of Hamburg, of course, was a big one, and the Auburn Boys Band as well. So
I wish we had a recording of the Sauerkraut Band. That would be good to hear if we could.
I do too. I wish that we could get a recording of that. Be very, very interesting to hear them play. And back to some more automobiles and stuff, just the classic cars. If anybody knows what make and model this is, it'd be fascinating to know. But it's a beautiful building. The building behind it is the Pennsylvania Railroad Station that was in Hamburg as well. Balthazar's Music House, which was located on the corner of 3rd and State Street. And you see the young children with the guitars and violins, and the boys in the front with the trumpets as well. They were happy to drive along. And of course, after the parade, the floats were parked on State Street for all the people to come and look at them up close. And as we had mentioned before, the fraternal orders were very great in the 1910s. So this is the Order of the Redmen, and they had a convention in Hamburg for the 1914 King Frost Carnival, and they had 1,500 red men that marched. So that was quite a great number for that. They also had the Amalgamated Reading Tribes had 1,200 marchers, and the Bloomer Girls and the Nighttown Girls in their quote unquote nighties, it said, as well. So we don't have any pictures of that to share with you. I'm sorry, but it was interesting though.
Got to pay extra to see the nighty pictures, I guess, right?
That's right. The 1914 parade was the biggest parade. Many of the pictures that you see here are from the 1914 parade, and it was said in the Reading paper that the carnival was a greater and grander success than ever before. In fact, it does seem strange that little Hamburg can have a day of this size, and Reading can seldom muster affairs as big as this one. Ouch.
Yeah, so ouch is right.
So they took a real stab at it. But when you think about it, the parades in the 1910s, 10 through 14 averaged, between like 30,000 people, which was an amazing number, considering, if you believe they counted that number accurately, which maybe they did. And in 1914, the automobile parade had 100 vehicles. And that was the first year that actual illumination was provided for the whole route. The Hamburg Electric Company was in its infancy, and they started with some very basic street lighting at that point in time. And in the 1914, the estimated 30,000 came to that parade. Hotels and taverns offered up meals and church groups, but also it was advertised for private homes for people to come in and eat and stay there while the parade was going on. So we also mentioned the bands and stuff. I'm not sure. These don't look like the sauerkraut band, because I don't think their faces look quite that sour. But this one was one of the bands that was in that parade. Some of the old time plows, maybe, and the new farming with a tractor and the steel wheels on it. And of course, the kids were involved in the masquerade parades and the afternoon parades as well. So you see them in their costumes, frolicking along the street as they were in the parade. But in 1916 to 1920, there was no King Frost Carnival. It was the Hamburg's company, the National Guard, was called into federal service to go to the Mexican border in June of 1916. You had World War I happen. You had flu epidemic. And so there really wasn't a spirit of wanting to celebrate. Now, they did have their traditional gatherings, their Halloweening and stuff like that. Nowhere did I read that it had shenanigans like they were trying to prevent. But there was no parade at that time. So in 1921, the Hamburg Item announced that the King Frost was coming back. And it was the King Frost Carnival was a huge success. The Berks County Firemen held their annual convention in Hamburg to coincide with the carnival, and they, along with their ladies auxiliaries and their bands, amounted to 1,000 marchers for the civic and industrial parade. And the evening parade had 700 red men, 500 Order of Independent Americans, and 200 Loyal Order of Moose. And this was the year that they began to have real rivalry amongst local industries, to come up with the best floats. So that was part of what drove all of the events. And the revelry also included throwing bushels of confetti and streamers. So we're going to get to the confetti in a little bit, but we're going to show you just a few of the events from the 1920s, some of the cars and stuff that they had. Here, all decorated out in floral. Again, I'm not sure how they saw out the front window. This float was from the Hahn Motor Company, and we won first prize on it. And it's just a neat photo of what Hahn had done with their vehicles. I'm going to go back to the 19. This one was from 1922 or 21, but in 1922 they had a new feature to the King Frost Parade, a beauty pageant, and entries came from Harrisburg, Lancaster, Pottsville, Schuylkill Haven, Fleetwood, Kutztown, and Hamburg, and the pageant took place at the Blue Mountain Clubhouse, which today we know as the Olivet Camp on Mountain Road just outside of Hamburg. And the winner was from Pottsville, and she was able to ride on a special float flanked by her court at the side of King Frost. In 1923, which is this where this float came from, they decided that marching and parading in Hamburg wasn't just enough to drum up support. So they took Berkey's band on a truck and 50 decorated automobiles all across the communities, all in the Northern Berks area, and even up to Pottsville, where the Pottsville parade was such a big deal that they had an actual regular parade, and the Pottsville mayor was at the very lead of that parade. And so 1924, you see the decorations, the very patriotic decorations at the Union Roller Mills. They're on the corner of 4th Street and Pine Street in Hamburg. The 1924 carnival was the biggest that they had that by far so far. 50,000 was the estimated number of people that were there. The evening trains brought thousands of people, costumed people into town, and it was already crowded because there was a lot of people there for the afternoon parades. But according to the item, it was indeed a crowd of merrymakers who enjoyed every minute. And the budget for that carnival for 1924 was $3,826.22. But in 1910, when it began, it was only $100 for the budget. So you can see they came a long way. The automobile traffic on US 122, it's now Route 61, was delayed as long as 1.5 hours till people could come through. Because remember, 122 came right through the heart of town. So they had to wait until the parade was over. And apparently the auto counter in Shoemakersville, he counted 3,000 automobiles traveling south through the borough from 8 to midnight. And then he went to bed. So so that was 1924. But 1925, and we'll have this, this gives a whole new meaning to row, row, row your boat gently down the street, we'll say.
Street.
Yes, this is the street, not the stream. But an interest began to wane, and this was, let me take it back a moment. This is the committee for the 1924 carnival. A lot of the prominent businessmen and other leaders in the borough. And you notice that it says Hamburg, November 1st was the carnival. Well, November 1st was a Monday. So Sunday, they weren't going to do their parading and Halloweening on Sunday, the 31st. So they waited till Monday, November the 1st, to have their parade. An interesting part about the from 21 to 25, when the parades were over, they would take the floats and take them out to the Hamburg TB Sanatorium so patients could view them from their windows. Bands performed concerts in the rec hall in the Sandy's grounds, the sanatorium's grounds, and floats were then put on display on State Street so everybody could go and look at them. And there was a Halloween dance in the Armory on North 3rd Street after the parade. A baby parade was added, as I might have mentioned. Prizes were totaled $100 for the artistic floats, Halloween effect, most comical, youngest and smallest child. And actually, in the 20s, the Pennsylvania Railroad sent to Hamburg its first prize float from the Miss America pageant in Atlantic City. So we were moving up in the world, I think, right?
I'd say.
Well,
Brian, Jerry shares a great memory here I want to share with everybody too. He says, I remember going to the parade when I was very young, and my parents stood in front of a candy shop, or he doesn't quite remember maybe, and the smell of fresh roasted peanuts was heavenly. That probably was, Jerry.
Yeah, that would have been Kaiser's Peanut Shop up on North 4th Street. So yeah, that was, a lot of people have lots of fond memories about Kaiser's and the aroma of the peanuts, fresh roasted peanuts up there. In the 20s, also, the cleanup crews had 20 truckloads of confetti and streamers after the one parade. So 1926, well, here back to the 1924 was the greatest that they had. So it was still big. And in 1925, the interest was beginning to wane for the parade and for the carnival itself. No real reason given why, but there was interest began to wane on it. And then 1926, of course, was America's 150th birthday, and that took precedence over everything. And they did not have a carnival from then till 1933. And of course, in the midst of that, you had the Great Depression starting and continuing. So it really did affect the borough here in terms of not having this great carnival. However, the editor of the item, he thought he could resurrect it possibly in 1927, as this appeared in 1926. However, he was not unsuccessful in doing that. And it took until 1934 when Millard Stofflet, the new publisher of the Hamburg Item, put out an idea, and he wrote, "Hilarity is the word, Halloween's the time, mirthful merriment and boisterous fun for everybody, the outcome." And he decided that he was going to have a parade, one parade, and as you can read on the advertisement from the item, it's not a King Frost carnival, it's not an all-day celebration, and it's not going to cost thousands of dollars. So they had this planned out for a single parade, and it happened on Saturday. It was supposed to happen on Saturday evening, October 27th. However, rain and snow postponed it for 1 week, and it was the first time ever it had been postponed since 1910. But the crowd of 10,000 still attended. And in 35 through 39, the parade grew in size and splendor. And I'm just going to share a few photos from the 1937 parade. 1937 was a big year, was the 100th. It was a centennial of Hamburg. And so it was, you can see that, and automobiles were a much bigger deal at that time as well. And they brought people from 43 different communities within a 100-mile radius of the town to come visit the parade. And you can see by the crowds here, it was people wanted to be there, and it was a great event. Parade stretched for 20 blocks and circled the town. And the first division was just finishing as the last one was starting up.
Jeez.
Which was, I have some memories of that as well. And just some of the floats from that time. Chrisman's Ice Cream, a favorite ice cream shop and producer in the area. Smith's Natural Bridge to Health. You see the Natural Bridge there. This one's one of my favorites too, the ski jump from Windsor Knitting Mills. No word on whether the person actually went down and tried to jump off of it, which would have been interesting. This is the Hamburg Item float, and they were celebrating the centennial of Hamburg. And although you can't really read this real well, it's said that 1,800 marched in the King Frost Parade that Saturday evening in 1937. So it was a big deal in the borough. And in 1940, you don't adjust the color on your screens because it is orange. They printed the item in orange for 2 weeks. I don't know if they had a special on orange paper, but they were getting ready for the 1940 parade. And there were 2 parades that year. It was the first time, as it says, since 1924. They had a masqueraders ball at the Armory Hall, and there's lots of bands and drum and bugle corps, and lots of confetti apparently as well. So from 1941 to 1963, there was no parade or carnival. There was obviously the World War, and they felt that, I believe, in 1940 as well, that they made it such a grand event in 1940. So in 1941, of course, World War II starts. Hamburg and the Hamburg area sent hundreds of young men and women also to serve in the armed forces. So that took precedence. Traffic issues were a big deal as well, because Route 22 and also Route 122 intersected right in the middle of Hamburg, and there was no way with all the traffic, all the more automobiles and stuff, it just caused some trouble. But in 1964, a new generation would revive this old tradition, and we have the 64 King Frost Parade Committee from the Junior Chamber of Commerce, or the JCs as we know better. And many of these men had heard about the King Frost Carnival, but had never seen one. So they really wanted to revive it. And so how were they going to support this and get money to do this? Well, it began by selling badges. And King Frost badges were a big deal in 1964 and up till this very day. And you'll see there the gentleman on the right is Domer Leibensberger, and he's selling one to Irwin Miller, who claims to have seen every King Frost parade and carnival since it started in 1911. So, and we have a whole collection of badges at the Historical Society. The 64 badge, the original one, I priced that on eBay, I believe, at $75 last time, and they can go for much, much more. And we have a current. Last year's one was the one with the mask on the upper. So, and actually, there was a King Frost last year. They just didn't announce it, and King Frost got on the back of a truck and drove through town, and it was just a way of getting people out and about, just out of their house onto their porch to say hello to King Frost as he passed by. Just to make a quick point, they had they were pretty ordinary buttons up through the early 80s, and then they got a little bit more decorated. And I'm proud to say my uncle, Randy Flemmer, and his business partner, Bill Ebling, had a large part in doing the designing of the more recent badges. So shout out to Randy for that. And you can see they definitely were bigger. So for 1964 parade, the paper said it was a time for reunions as homes were open for out-of-town families and guests. And that's what the parade has really become. It's become a big homecoming. As you said, Doug, to come back to Hamburg to visit with family and friends and stuff. It's a big deal. And it was a great night for people to come back home. In 1964, they had a dance at the field house after the parade. And the parade, this began the tradition of holding the parade the last Saturday night in October. As you might have remembered from before, it could happen in November or other times. And about 30 to 35,000 people were at the parade. It also started the 2-mile parade route in 1964 as it is today, which goes North 3rd Street up to Maple and then back to North 4th Street. So I've marched that parade 5 times as a member of the band, and it is a long parade.
I marched it as the member of the Schuylkill Valley High School marching band as well a couple of years, and you are right. By the time that you get done, you are tired.
Yes, absolutely. And if you get the silly string in your face or something thrown at you, yes.
So, Brian, where are we right now? I mean, we had the last 2 years off, as you mentioned, but we are planning on having an event this October. Can we fast forward to this year? What can you tell us about what's coming up this year? Are there any things that you can share with us about this year's event?
This year's event is going on as planned. It will be at the end of October, the last Saturday, which would be the 30th. And it will be they're trying to get more volunteers and more trying to get bands to come. It is difficult. People are busier, I guess, and the bands are doing many different things. So, and the expense of it all is a big deal. And the JCs are still in charge of it and still trying to, still raising money and stuff for it as well.
Yeah, for anybody that knows anything about, the status of and the state of music education in a lot of school districts, marching bands are not what they used to be. And in the last couple of years, the King Frost parades that I've been to have still been, great events, but you're definitely not, there's not as many people, I guess, that just want to do this stuff anymore. And I'm glad that the borough of Hamburg is supporting it and still trying to keep the tradition alive, because as you told us tonight, the amount of history that you've shared with us, I mean, this is a rich history that goes all the way back to 1910, and a celebration not just Hamburg but of our agricultural roots. And when we think of the Pennsylvania Dutch, in that we can't think of the Pennsylvania Dutch without acknowledging our agricultural heritage. So I think it's really, I think it's great that the town and the borough is still trying to keep the tradition going, and how many generations we're thinking about since since 1910 that have been either at this parade or marched in this parade, or it's really wonderful. So kudos to the JCs and everyone in Hamburg that are, you know, keeping this going, I guess we could say.
Absolutely.
Did you have any final thoughts or comments for us, Brian, that you want to share?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to be on your program tonight, and I actually have about 50 more slides to go through, but that's okay. But I'll have to have a program with the Historical Society in Hamburg for that.
Well, let's give a shout out to the Hamburg Historical Society.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a little museum that people can visit?
Yeah, we do at 102 State Street in Hamburg. We are open on Sundays from 1 to 4 and also by appointment. We also have a Facebook page that we try to keep weekly pictures or stories about the Hamburg area. And we meet the first Thursday of the month. Currently, we meet at Hamburg Bible Church on Port Clinton Avenue. We had been meeting at the high school before till COVID hit. But this coming November 4th, we have Susan Snyder, who's going to share her book that she compiled, the letters of her father-in-law and mother-in-law. Her father-in-law served in World War II, and the title of the book is A Daily Letter Home to My Wife. So it should be a good program.
Yeah. Well, Brian, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your research and sharing these great photos for everybody to see of our of times gone by, I guess we could say. And I'll let everybody know, you know, I can share my screen real quick. If you have nothing else going on, the 57th annual King Frost Parade will be in Hamburg on the 30th, as Brian said. Steps off at 7 p.m. I would advise getting there a little earlier to get a spot along the parade route, because those spots are coveted. You'll have benches and chairs out on the sidewalks early Saturday claiming their spot. And anyone that is in Hamburg that night, yours truly will be there on 3rd Street. You got to come find me. I'm not going to tell you exactly where I'm hiding, but if you walk up and down 3rd Street and you just start yelling, "Hey, Mr. Dutchman," I bet you I'll probably give you a shout out or a wave.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate you coming on. And, you know, since you have, I'm sure that the Hamburg Historical Society and you are a wealth of other stories that we could share in the future on a possible, you know, upcoming episode. And we could talk about some other aspect of Northern Berks County history. Being a son of that area and that region, my mother's side of the family were all from, you know, that area of Berks County. So my roots run very deep in that part. And it is, like you said, it is a homecoming coming back to the King Frost Parade. So Brian, thanks so much for joining us. I'll have a link in all the social media feeds to the Hamburg Historical Society, so you can learn more about that great organization and what they're doing, and get yourselves to Hamburg on it's next Saturday night. Holy cow. Next Saturday night. Hopefully the weather will be good and we'll be able to have a great parade.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Doug.
Brian, as we say in Pennsylvania Dutch, take care of yourself and mach's gut.
Mach's gut.
Well, now wasn't that something? And I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there watching this show that have been to the King Frost Parade. We already have some people that were sharing memories themselves. There is just something about a parade. And you know, we don't have as many parades as we used to have. And like all the reasons that Brian and I were talking about, people don't want to get involved, you know, busy lives. It's sad. I hope that maybe a tradition that maybe COVID will have taught us that we need these types of things to bring people together and bring communities together to rally around some event. And what better than something that has such a rich history than the King Frost Parade? So it's that time of the show every month. I usually try to do something with the language for everybody. Now, normally I give you a poem, but this month I decided, why not pick a couple idioms out and share with everybody? And I'll make my screen a little bigger. Here are some random Pennsylvania Dutch beliefs or superstitions or idioms, whatever you want to call them. In Pennsylvania Dutch, we'd call glawa. And I have the Pennsylvania Dutch down the left-hand side, which you can see, and then the English translation down the right. I'll just read the Pennsylvania Dutch so you can hear that, and you can follow along with the English. And you can either shake your head and say, that makes sense, or, well, I don't know if I believe that one. That's up to you to decide. Was net im Kop is, muss ma in de Fies haben. Now, that's a deep one right there. When you think about it, whoever came up with that one, I think they knew what they were talking about. I love this next one. En kleiner Boss macht viel Sache recht. Boy, is that not true, right? My wife's not having a good day, and I just give her that little boss, and her life turns right around. It's just something about it, right? And it goes vice versa, too. Gut gedu is besser als gut gezahlt. I think that one, there's nothing more Pennsylvania Dutch than that phrase right there. I shake my head, and I say this one to my students in my classroom a lot. Listen, guys, gut gedu is besser als gut gezahlt. Sometimes they listen to me, sometimes they don't. A bit of knowledge or wisdom for everyone. Sag net alles as du weißt. Keep your cards a little close sometimes, right? And blinde Sau, make all etmals an Eichel finne. That's all a pretty good one, right? That makes some sense too to me. And then finally, es wird doch dog all one de Hana net grade. I think that's a pretty good one too, in my opinion. So there are some Pennsylvania Dutch Glaube for you, some thoughts, some superstitions. I have tons more of these that we can share maybe in a future month, but I've just chose that for you guys tonight. Every month, I also bring you a song because, as many of you know that follow the show and follow my YouTube channel, I'm a musical guy. I do a lot of music. And every month, I've been bringing you traditional Pennsylvania Dutch folk music, or I've had some hymns here and there. But this month, I've been working on a song that I want to debut for all of you. A couple months ago, for those of you that follow social media, you probably have heard of TikTok, this app out there where all the kids are using to share 30-minute or 30-second videos or really short videos. And it's really popular. But anyway, a couple months ago, this one video went viral about a sea shanty, this old style of singing from the 1700s and 1800s. And this guy did this, performed a traditional sea shanty, and the people went nuts. And I thought to myself, sea shanties are back in fashion? Holy cow. Well, I think we need to have some Pennsylvania Dutch style sea shanty because, as far as I know, I've never heard one. And I thought, well, what's stopping us from having one, right? We all came over on boats at some point, so we had to cross the ocean. So we were at sea, and probably our great-great-great-great-grandparents that were making that journey heard the sailors on the boat probably singing these types of songs. So I thought, we need one that's a little more based around the Pennsylvania Dutch. So I sat down and I took a very popular old sea shanty called Leave Her, Johnny, Leave Her, which is all about this boat that's in trouble, and they're trying to convince the crew, you just got to leave her. You got to leave the ship. We got to get off. We got to get out of here before we're in serious trouble. And I took that song and I turned it into a sea shanty with the same melody, but I turned it into Leave Her, Tschonny, Leave Her, and we're not leaving a ship this time. We're leaving something else. And I'd like to perform this for you guys. It's a debut. No one except my wife and kids have heard this song yet. So hope you enjoy Leave Her, Tschonny, Leave Her. Oh, you met a girl at the town dance. Leave her, Tschonny, leave her. She wasn't Dutch, but you thought you had a chance, and it's time for you to leave her. Leave her, Tschonny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Tschonny, leave her. For she's not the one, 'cause she's not Dutch, and it's time for you to leave her. Now that girl you met has become your wife. Leave her, Tschonny, leave her. She burns your scrapple and gives you strife, and it's time for you to leave her. Leave her, Tschonny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Tschonny, leave her. For she's not the one, 'cause she's not Dutch, and it's time for you to leave her. Well, she can't find Virginville on a map. Leave her, Tschonny, leave her. She thinks Groundhog Day is a bunch of crap, and it's time for you to leave her. Leave her, Tschonny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Tschonny, leave her. For she's not the one, 'cause she's not Dutch, and it's time for you to leave her. She made pot pie, but it came with a crust. Leave her, Tschonny, leave her. Now you've had your fill, and away she must, and it's time for you to leave her. Everybody now, leave her, Tschonny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Tschonny, leave her. For she's not the one, 'cause she's not Dutch, and it's time for you to leave her. Well, people, what do you think of that? That's a brand new one. No one has heard that yet except for you guys. Maybe you think that song was a bunch of crap, but personally, I had a lot of fun writing that. I bounced some ideas of lyrics off of my good friend and musical partner, Chris LaRose, and he gave me a little advice here and there, but I have to admit, the first draft, he said, you know what, Doug, that might be one of the better ones you wrote. I take that as a high compliment coming from Mr. LaRose, my good musical partner. How about that? Well, my dear friends, we have come to the end of another episode of PA Dutch Live. I'd like to share just a couple things with you. If you like what we are doing here at the channel, you can support the work that we're doing by simply virtually buying me a coffee. If you visit the link buymeacoffee.com/Doug Maidenford, you can make a monetary donation, and all money that is gathered, collected, goes towards the upkeep of the channel, equipment, paying for certain things that need to be paid for in order to keep this entertainment coming to you free of charge. So something to throw out there if you're interested. I also can tell you, mark your calendars now. I already know what our November show is going to be, and it is going to be on the 17th of November at 6 p.m. again. And this time I will be inviting my dear friend, and many of you out there know him, Terry Berger. He is a regular at the Kutztown Folk Festival and at various events at Pennsylvania German Cultural Heritage Center in Kutztown. He is extremely knowledgeable about Pennsylvania Dutch foodways and traditional cooking methods. So Thanksgiving is in the month of November, so I thought we got to do something food related. So Terry will be coming on and we'll be having a conversation about Pennsylvania Dutch Thanksgiving. What kinds of foods do we eat? Why do we eat them? How does he prepare them? It's going to be an awesome show. I'm already super excited about having Terry on. And on top of all that, he's just a great guy. So it'll be fun to have Terry on. And we'll have a song again in Pennsylvania Dutch. And we'll have a poem. And we'll bring you as much Pennsylvania Dutch content as I can keep coming. Gentlemen, ladies, gentlemen, Weibslide, Mannslide, I would like to thank you all for joining us again this month. We'll be back in November. Can't wait to be with you all again when we welcome our good friend Terry on. I'm looking forward to it. In the meantime, follow along on all the things that we're doing on social media, whether it's on the PA Dutch 101 page on Facebook, our YouTube channel. I'm also on Twitter. Just look for PA Dutch 101. You can follow along. I post tons of great content, all revolving around Pennsylvania Dutch stuff, language, history, culture, food, you name it. We got it covered. But until next month, my dear friends, stay healthy. Get yourself to the King Frost Parade on next Saturday night. And if you can find me on 3rd Street, I'll give you a big high five. How's that sound? But until next month, I want you all to, as I said, take care. And as we say in Pennsylvania Dutch, and you know this well, whenever I say goodbye to anybody or we say goodbye to somebody, we always say, Mach's gut.
Ich kann deutsche Worte singen, hoff so kannst du. Welle dann mit Anna singen, sing ich und du. Ich bin froh und ich bin herrlich, wie bist dann du? Ich geh recklen auf die Karte, ich hoff so tust du. Oh, wir singen, sing ich und du. Oh, wir platsche dazu. Viel wie ein Hutschli im Feld, wie viel stand du? Gib dem Doktor gar kein Geld, was gibst dann du? Rumfungiere du, ich